just watched the film, and we have one of the featured actors from the film, Vincent, joining us today.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
My pleasure.
And I realised that you're actually our first guest who's actually worked in Hong Kong in that era, in our 10 years. So it only took us 10 years.
Wow.
But we got there in the end. So let's talk a little bit about how you started in Hong Kong, because I remember you said to me you actually grew up here. Is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in London. Yeah.
Yeah, and then America.
My parents emigrated when I was 16.
Mm.
I met with 4 film companies, and of course the newest was D&B, which was owned by Dixon Poon, who married Michelle Yeoh, and they were actually had already started Tiger Cage, which was starring pretty much every Hong Kong star at the time, and a very young Donnie Yen. And they were halfway through the film, and like many Hong Kong films, they weren't sure where the film was going and how they wanted to end it and so forth. So I basically got the role of playing the lead villain. And funnily enough, it's the only film that I did in Hong Kong, of all the 19 I did there, that I don't die.
That's impressive, because you were a trained martial artist already when you went out there.
Yeah, from very young.
So what did you train in?
I've been studying Kung Fu my whole life, but it's father's Chinese, mother's British, so Chinese martial arts have been in our family we can date it back to the beginning of the Ming Dynasty.
Oh, so you actually have lineage of...
Yeah.
Ah, I see, okay.
Yeah, and actually the famous Grandmaster Lung Ting wrote a couple of books on our Hakka Wanderer style.
Mm. Oh, right, amazing. So you worked on Tiger Cage, that was your first experience, basically, as the lead villain as well.
Yeah.
It's a big thing to do for your first time.
No, it was. I actually had this surreal chance to go to Hong Kong. I was ready to open up a martial arts school in the States. I got this opportunity. Didn't get paid. They paid my flight and expenses. And I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity. I'll get this done and fly back to the US. But it was such a huge success, and it was Yuen Woo-ping's comeback film, and he was obviously grooming Donnie Yen at the time. And it was such a huge success. I got a call within 10 days from Golden Harvest to do Blonde Fury with Cynthia.
Mm.
Yeah. And then it just became a snowball effect. Yeah.
Yeah, so you worked on a lot of films, but we'll move forward to this film and then we'll roll it back a little bit to connect things together. So how did the opportunity arise for you to jump onto Operation Condor and actually work on it?
When I was actually of what they call the Guaylo Brigade, which was a term set up by Bruce Fontaine, who was in this film. I was actually the only Guaylo, I hate to use that term, who had a manager at the time. And so I was working on a lot of other things. I was modeling with Elite, a modeling agency. I was signed with Polygram Records to compose. And I was doing 2 other films. And then this call came out to have auditions for Operation Condor. And so pretty much every martial artist in Hong Kong at the time were asked to go up to Golden Harvest. And I went along, and we spent like 6 hours basically like trained seals jumping through hoops, flying off of tables. I mean, it was the craziest audition ever. And initially, I didn't get the part. And I think maybe my manager had asked too much money at the time, but it didn't matter to me because I was just so busy. And then, of course, the film went on for so long. They had shot all the stuff in Spain, Marrakesh, and Western Sahara. And of course, they had so much trouble there. So many things went wrong, as they call this film Jackie Chan's Apocalypse Now. So they had to reconstruct all the sets back in Hong Kong with Shaw Brothers. And so then, like everything in Hong Kong, Jackie took on the role of, because the original director who had got sick and ill, so he took on the role of director, choreographer, and probably wearing too many hats. They threw away Aldo Sembrel's original script, who played the lead villain, the very famous Spanish villain actor. And they had no idea how they were going to end it, and of course, to come up with a climactic, ending scene. So again, they started the audition process. I went back up to Golden Harvest, and I said, look, by that time, I said, I'm not jumping through any more hoops. I'm not going to audition again. I said, either you want me or you don't. I said, I've worked with all these stuntmen before many times. So they said, okay. And I signed a 10-day contract. I said, you give me half up front, and when the 10 days is up, give me the rest. And Jackie took his first look at me and said, he's too good looking to be a villain, so we've got to make him look ugly. So I actually spent 10 days in makeup for them trying to figure out how ugly they could make me, and every few days he would come down and take a peek around the corner and say, no, you've got to make him more ugly, more ugly. So eventually, when he finally agreed, my contract was up. I went to the producer and I said, I'm out of here, man. He says, what do you mean? You haven't done 1 day of filming yet? I said, just give me my money. I'm gone. He said, no, you've got to start. So let's sign a new contract. I said, look, forget about signing a new contract. How about we just, every day I come, at the end of the day, filming, you just pay me the cash. And we agreed on that, and so that went on for like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, because actually, some people might not know this, but at the time it was the most expensive Hong Kong movie ever made.
Yeah. That actually car chase scene, which Raymond Chow did not want, which is basically 2.5 minutes in screen time, that cost $2 million US dollars, just that 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it was shot by the famous French team, Remy Julien, who did all the Bond films at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hugely expensive production, the most expensive thing you've ever worked on.
Yes.
Because you've worked on a lot of other films. Because for the people who don't know, Hong Kong films generally didn't have high budgets in comparison to Western films, should we say?
Right.
But this one is a multi-million-dollar budget.
Yeah.
And it's the Apocalypse Now style shoot.
Yeah. I mean, everything could go wrong. Everything went wrong with that film.
Yeah. So you're stepping into this huge production.
Yeah.
Are you feeling any pressure from that?
Well, the strange thing was I was working on Fury in Red with Robin Shaw, and directed by like Go Fei and Wong Lung-wai, and so it kind of got in the way. And Jackie went and made a call to Go Fei and Wong Lung-wai and said, "Look, Vincent's in my film, so kill him off in that film." And that's what happened. I was actually supposed to be one of the main characters all the way through the film, and I ended up like, a stunt guy ended up doing a death scene where I get thrown in the ocean. So okay. So this is typical of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I died so many ways, it's crazy.
So in this film you don't survive either. But
No.
But okay, so let's talk about that wind tunnel scene then, because that's obviously a very, very famous scene. So you're saying they built that in Shaw Brothers' studio, did they?
Yeah, they built it in Shaw Brothers. Yeah.
That whole set.
The whole set.
So
it was like about $1 million.
And it's an actual wind tunnel as well.
It was actually a wind tunnel, but of course, and that whole giant fan.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the fan that buffeted us through the wind tunnel. We were on using wires.
Right.
Yeah, and that was actually my first experience using wires, and it was the most painful thing ever. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's actually you can't even see the wires even in the
No,
restoration
it's
at
quite,
all.
I haven't seen the film in like more than 20 years, so to see this remastered cut brought back a lot of memories.
So you had to do a lot of like very deliberate acting to pretend that you're being buffeted by these huge winds.
Yeah, very much so. And we, of course, always at the end of films, as Jackie shows himself getting injured, he never shows the rest of us, nearly dying. Kenny Lowe, who was his bodyguard at the time, they couldn't find another Westerner, so of course Jackie will always use Kenny. When he gets buffeted, he hits those iron frames, nothing was padded, he broke all his rib cage. I split the back of my head open on the first, when they're launching me back, and I hit those giant slats, so my head cracked open. And I'm hanging in a wire, Jackie's behind this stage, there's 4 Panavision cameras, and I'm like dangling like a marionette. And they pull me forward, and I have my hand, I remember, on Jackie's shoulder, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, like this. My head is bleeding. Should have gone to the hospital, of course. And he said, "Are you okay?" And as soon as I said, "Yeah, I'm all right," he turned away, and of course I collapsed. And he says, take a rest, we'll do it again in 15 minutes.
That sounds very classic.
And of course, I didn't go to hospital, they put duct tape on the back of my head.
Right. When did you go to the hospital then?
A few days later. Yeah, I still have a concussion.
After the scene was finished.
And the brain damage, of course, yeah.
Because I think it's quite infamous in Hong Kong, you never stop acting until somebody says cut.
Right. Yeah.
No matter how badly you get dinged up when you're doing the scene.
Many times, yeah. It was a lot of, it was painful. Yeah, the wiring, the wire stuff was really painful.
Yeah.
And when they were pulling me, when I'm being hoisted through the air, first of all, they try a wire that is not thick enough so it keeps snapping. And then they find a wire that is, strong enough. And then there's like 3 guys pulling the wire, and Jackie's like, no, he's not moving fast enough. Get a few more guys. So there's no like math or physics to this, so there's like the whole stunt crew, there's like 10 guys yanking this wire, trying to make me go fast and fly through the air. It's so crazy. Man,
so and this was your first experience working with Jackie Chan as well, wasn't it?
Actually, no, I worked with him it was just background on the, what's the film called? The period film he did. Gosh, anybody? Miracles, thank you. Yeah.
So I was thinking about, because you started off with...
What was Miracles after? Man, I forget. That's the brain damage, sorry.
Yeah, that's the concussion speaking. So I was thinking, because you started off with Yu Mo Ping and working with Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
So what's like the differences between the two of them? Working with Jackie and then working with Yu Mo Ping as filmmakers?
Well, for me, I thought studying martial arts my whole life was going to be, I don't want to say a piece of cake, on Tiger Cage, but it was really difficult for me, yeah. And I always felt like, because my Cantonese was not good at that time, so I always felt like they were kind of like making fun of the Westerner, So I think always the most difficult thing initially for me was to get the timing, yeah, because it's like a dance between the 2 people. So for that, in the very beginning, it was difficult. And then after 20 films, and then finally working with Jackie Chan, I thought, wow, I have all this experience. It's going to be easy. No. As soon as I stepped in front of him, I remember the first day I was working with Chris Lee, one of his main stunt guys. And we worked on this choreography for, 40 minutes. Jackie came, did the choreography. Jackie looked and said, I don't like it. So oh my God, I spent 40 minutes busting my ass trying to work this choreography. And he comes along and says, no, we're going to do this, And so working with him initially, I felt like I had 2 left feet. Yeah, so it took a little while for the rhythm to work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's quite famous for having really high standards.
Very much so, yeah. And then he would do the shot, one shot, 30, 40 times. Usually take the first 2 or 3 are the best, because you got the most energy. But by 30 or 40, you're just like wasted. Yeah, but he would do it that much.
And they never took anything from the end.
Who knows? Who knows?
Okay, so we haven't got a lot of time, so
Yeah.
we're just going to roll forward a little bit now, because obviously now you're in London, working with your foundation and your humanitarian work.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a little bit of how that came about?
Yeah, I started a foundation, We Can Save Children, 10 years ago. It basically started out, I had a security company in New York that did close protection. I still have it, but it's now working predominantly in the Middle East. And I was doing close protection in Ghana and Kenya. And it was actually the first time that I witnessed the rescue of child slavery, or child slaves. And it just, it changed my life in many respects. And so I started a foundation, and whose main initiative is to rescue, recover children who are caught in conflict countries. So I've spent a lot of time in the past 10 years in some of the most dangerous places on earth. I was in Ukraine twice. We rescued a lot of mothers and children in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, South Sudan, Nigeria, Libya. I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's really amazing to hear about your work. So I think I'm going to open things up to the floor now.
Yeah.
Claire, you got the mic ready?
I sure do.
Okay, so questions, people? Put your hands up.
Who's first?
Who's first? Let's go to the back.
Again, hi Vincent.
How you doing? Speak up, please.
Hi Vincent.
Speak up.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Hold on, we're just getting the
I
mic
remember
turned
reading
on.
your interview in the original line notes for the 88 Blu-ray release of Operation Condor, and it said that you were given a contract for Shaw Brothers to star in.
That's correct.
In movies, was it like from what I read, was it like supposed to be like an Indiana Jones type of movie?
No, actually, this was even before Cynthia did Yes, Madam. This happened in 1983. I was in Hong Kong. I was actually on a honeymoon, first time I was married. Again, I took an opportunity. I went up to Shaw Brothers. I met with a famous producer, Lockie Ling. That was in the summer of '83. And I was actually going to sign a 3-picture deal with them, but it wasn't obviously period films. They were kind of what would become changing over into more, European cops and robbers, that types of stuff. But it's a long story why it didn't happen. But obviously, I'll just say that I got divorced. Anyway, so it was an interesting time. That of course I still have that letter, but it wasn't to be then. But 5 years forward, it happened. So yeah.
Okay, next question. Anyone else got their hands up? Because I saw a couple more, I'm sure.
Ask now, please. Whatever you want.
There we go.
No such thing as a stupid question.
Thanks so much for coming down. Congratulations on that annual humanitarian work.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask if you had any insights on what the rehearsal process was like during the making of the film, and it looks so grueling, the work that you did there. Could you appreciate the magnitude of what you were working on in the moment, and how does it feel watching it in retrospect now?
Yeah, I mean, sitting here with you today and having not seen it in 20 years, wow, it's like, I can't actually believe that we did that, because you got to remember this was at a time when there's no CGI, there's no green screen, there's no blue screen, there's no, apparatus of safety equipment or anything like that. And you ask about the setup of rehearsal, there's none of that, there's no rehearsals. It's when you get on set, and I spent 3 hours every day in makeup. So by the end of 12, 14 hours, you're sweating. When I got home, I actually basically really couldn't wait to tear my face off. And I say that not in jest, and after like many months, I mean, my skin was breaking out because again, the technique of makeup was not, I don't even know, but there was no rehearsals, nothing was set up, there was no storyboard, no, you just did it on the spot. And basically because Jackie had no idea from day to day what he wanted to do tomorrow, and sometimes he would disappear and nobody knew where he was. So I'd be sitting baked in makeup for 12 hours. We didn't even shoot one shot some days. And then he'd come out after 3 or 4 days and said, okay, we're going to do this. And again, right on the spot, you just have to get the choreography down and do it. Yeah. So it was quite grueling, certainly harrowing as well.
Yeah, I think that some people, a lot of people who don't know about the industry back then, there was very rarely any rehearsal time. You kind of just showed up and just did it on the spot.
Yeah.
A lot of things were done on the fly. Scripts were written on the fly, you know, and choreography was done on the fly as well, and just filmed. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm aware, you can probably corroborate this. Sometimes people just had an idea for a fight scene and then built a film around it as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this happened a lot, you know. And then, of course, the ideas of injuries sustained, some mild and some, you know, like the one in Condor is quite severe. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's why some Hong Kong films end really abruptly too, because of injuries as well.
That's
right?
That's what happens. Yeah, they have no idea what they're going to do next. So the answer is, oh, kill him off.
Yeah. So there's that's why there's some quite abrupt moments in those films. Okay, one more and then we'll end. So.
Thank you for a great Q&A so far. That first flight on your way must have felt amazing. Could you talk about that? And also, do you have any advice for action performers? Because from what I've seen, actually stuff is still very much on the fly sometimes, and you have to be very adaptable. What helped you continue working the way that you did?
When you say first flight, you mean first flight that I...
The first flight when that you took on your way.
Oh, to go to do Tiger Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very crazy because I had met, who I'm still very good friends with today, Yuen Wo-ping's partner of some 35 years, Fish Fong. And he kind of really wanted me to do this part. And he says, I'm going to have you meet Yuen Wo-ping. We're in a small space in a Hong Kong office. It's no bigger than this. I walk in, I wasn't ready. I didn't have loose pants on, I didn't have the right footwear on. I had these like tight stonewashed jeans of that period. And he said, do something. Now, and I seriously, from this chair to the edge of that's how much space I had. Like this. And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, here we are, put on the spot. And I'm no space to jump, to roll, to flip, or anything like this. You know, not even high kick. No, I just did a few things. And a couple of days later, Fish says, Yuen wants to see you again. I said, I can't stay, man. I got to go back. I said, my flight. I said, I don't have the money to stay here. You know, I've got to go back. He says, no, just please stay one more day. And I really couldn't. I flew back to New York. Within 24 hours, I get a call, you got the part. And within 24 hours again, they flew me back. And that's how it started. Yeah. And your other question was?
What tips can you give for continuing working the way that you did? You talked about having to be very adaptable and work stuff out on the fly. From what I've seen on set, sometimes that's still the case without much rehearsal.
From those experiences, I mean, my personality, and maybe Hong Kong had something to do with it, all the way to now, is I've always been very kind of tenacious and steadfast and doing things on the fly and actually not getting emotional about things and not thinking with my head, because if I'm thinking with my head, then I'll waver back and forth. Should I not? Should I not? Sometimes you got to take a risk, and I surely took a risk going to Hong Kong. And even today with the work, especially the work I do, one has to take a lot of risks, but I kind of do it with an intuitive hit. I don't listen to my heart. That will make the wrong decision, and my head will I will not make the decision quick enough. I'll go back and forth, you know, and usually we always relate to our comfort zone, you know, instead of taking a chance and making that chance to go to Hong Kong or or the work that I do, So you've got to go with your intuition if it tells you to move forward. And basically, we got three decisions. Either you can stay where you are, which most people do because it's comfort. They don't have to take a risk, or sometimes they even go backwards. So very few will take that jump. Yeah, but that's what makes the difference.
Okay, thank you very much, Vincent, for joining us today.
Wayne, I have one quick question. Just a really, really quick one.
Okay, really quick.
You also said you modelled for Elite as well as acted.
5 years, yeah.
My question was...
no nude stuff, but I did a lot of like underwear stuff. But anyway, sorry.
Was there ever an assignment or a role that you've turned down that you've regretted turning down, be it modelling or acting?
Okay, I'll tell it this way. On Tiger Cage, everybody know who's Yam Dat Wah, Simon Yam? Yeah. Right, done 150 films, very famous, right? He told me something. He said, Vincent, this was like halfway through the film, and I on that film, I just took everything in, because I didn't know anything. I was like, a virgin in film, right? So I listened and I watched and I tried to learn as much as I could. And Simon said to me, he said, Vincent, look, he said, however long you stay in Hong Kong, no matter what work you do, no matter what you're offered, even if it's one day to come on set and just stand in the back, he said, whatever it is, never turn it down. And I said, really? Even if it's like, you think it's a crap movie, all right? He said, doesn't matter. He said, that's the work, right? And he said, and I said, well, why do you say that? He says, because it won't last. He said, at some point it will end. And he was right.
Thank you very much. Again, Vincent,
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are super grateful to have you here.
Yeah, my pleasure.